Hey, so I'm just going to try to build this slide here on the right side. It's a diagram from McKinsey, and it's a diagram that I saw previously, and I thought it was very interesting. So I'm going to try to use Parley.show to make the slide actually just using my voice. And so there's going to be a lot of bugs, but as we find the bugs, or also just some features that are missing, I'm going to say them out loud just so that we can prioritize them for our next video. So I'm just on the homepage now, and actually you can just make the slide directly from here. We're not going to be able to save the slide, but at least we can just try to make it from here. Please completely erase the slide. I want a white background, or maybe just slightly off-white. We're going to show a diagram that shows the distribution of work that is automatable versus non-automatable, and work that is non-physical versus work that is physical. There's going to be a quadrant box. It's going to be squares. Starting from the zero axes, x and y axes, you're going to have squares expand out in the four directions. The work that is automatable is going to be the bottom quadrant, and work that is not automatable is going to be the top quadrant. Non-physical is going to be left, and physical capabilities is going to be on the right side. So these are going to be four quadrants. So for example, the work that is automatable is 44% of all the work. And let's see, 44 hours covered by agents. So it's going to be a dark blue box. There'll be like a total 100% box that goes all around the graph with the x-axis and y-axis 0 points at the middle. And there'll be four different size boxes expanding out in the four quadrants. Maybe let's just start with that, and then let's see if we can edit from there. This transcribing portion, it's taking a little bit longer than I expect. And I think that should be much faster. So we'll see if we can get that in. And there's also another bug here where sometimes it edits, but actually you don't see any edits here. Here it's still working, so we haven't seen that yet. Some of the edits might not come out. And so actually we need to add some observability to see what's actually happening here in the backend. Because actually I can't really see what's happening yet. Okay, wow, here we go. This is actually pretty good. And actually, the point I want to make on this slide is that in the future, there's going to be work that is automatable, and part of it is going to be physical and non-physical. And actually, if you want to look at jobs in the future, you need to move obviously towards work that is not automatable, and you have to try to figure out what those jobs are. That's an obvious premise, but I think this graph puts some numbers to it, at least. So can you put that headline in? And the headline should be in the top portion of the slide, and it should be 2 lines max. So if we need to resize the font size to fit those 2 lines, then so be it. Make sure it's just like a straightforward commentary. And the labels for the graph are a little bit not obvious. So what I want is, for example, on the x-axis, above the x-axis, we have a label on the left side that says work is not automatable. I think that makes more sense. And below the x-axis, we say work that is automatable on the left side. And on the top side, left of the y-axis, it's another thing I want to put in is that you should just let the thing run in the background. As soon as I submit, that you should maybe have some sort of a node that kind of pops up and saying it's working here, and so we can submit another request at the same time without having to wait for it. Move the non-physical label to the top of the graph on the left side of the y-axis. And same thing with the physical, that will be on the top side on the right side of the y-axis. The non-physical should be hugging the y-axis on the left side of the y-axis on top of the graph. And same with the physical, they should be hugging, just left aligned to the y-axis. So yeah, kind of just aligned. And then the non-automatable and automatable should be on the left side of the graph. Non-automatable above the x-axis and the automatable below the x-axis. The physical is hugging the y-axis, that's good. For the automatable and non-automatable labels, they should be on the left side of the graph, and the non-automatable should hover just above the x-axis line, and then the automatable should hover just below the x-axis line on the left side of the graph. The graph here is a little bit confusing because they say 65% of total hours, so I guess this is 21 plus 44, that's what it is. Okay, and then 35 is 22 plus 13, yeah, that makes sense, okay. So this is percent of total hours. This is automatable and non-physical. Okay, so let's put the data in then. Okay, let's update the data. Bottom left quadrant should be 44%. Top left quadrant should be 21%. Top right quadrant should be 22%, and bottom right quadrant should be 13%. Okay, updated, but it's still flipped. The 44% should go in the bottom left, 21% should go in the top left, 13% should be in the bottom right, and 22% should be in the top right. So actually it would be good to see the transcript, just to make sure that it's going through properly. I don't know if the user needs to see that, or if the, what's it called? If this is just a backend thing. Okay, good. So I think the sizing looks about correct, almost. This 22 versus 21 looks very different, and also the labels haven't changed. The bottom left is 44%, so that should be about 44% of the surface area of that lower quadrant. So, the lower quadrant, let's consider that 100%, and so the 44 should represent 44% of that 100% of the lower quadrant. I don't know if I've turned on thinking mode yet for Claude. That works in the background, and maybe thinking mode might improve the results, but it will add latency. And so right now I'm just trying to manage latency. I want this to be as quick as possible in editing these slides. Okay, yeah, so it looks like it did some calculation and it works a little bit better. And actually part of this is what we do is we send a snapshot of this to the agent. So they see exactly the slide that we're seeing. They see the slide and they also see the code. So they can compare what's happening here. The boxes, the data boxes need to hug the zero axis. So there shouldn't be a gap between the boxes and the x-axis and the y-axis. So they should be hugging directly against the x and y-axis. So there's no gap in between the boxes. We made the bottom left quadrant hug the x and y axis. We need to do the same thing for all the other boxes. So the top left, top and bottom right boxes also need to be hugging the x and y axis. What it's doing right now is it's streaming edits, and Cloud Code, when they stream edits, sometimes they just make edits in different parts of the code base. It seemed like they were probably made one edit from the code base, and they were probably about to make edits in the other part of the code base, but it stopped for some reason. Okay, so now we got all four quadrants. That's good. The labels are not readable. I have black labels against the dark blue and white labels that are hovering on the background versus the gray background. And also we want to highlight the people aspect, the non-automatable boxes. Those are the boxes that people are going to want to go into. That should be like a brighter blue. That blue should stand out. Fix the labels and then make the non-automatable boxes, the ones on the top left, top, like a bright blue. Okay, see, it made one edit. It changed the colors for one, and I think it just stopped. It's supposed to make multiple edits here. So I think that's something we need to fix. So I'll just give it one edit at a time. The bottom left label should be 44%. The top left label should be 21%, and change the position of it so that it's not just on the background of white, and it's not just white on white. So change the color and position of it. Okay, so change the color, but didn't change the position, because I think there's another edit that it didn't get through. But the color is good. The 22% manual label on the top right, that label also needs to be the same color as the one on the top left. Good. The bottom right label should be within the box so that the white on blue stands out. Okay, good. Change the position of the top labels to be within the box. So later on, you're going to be able to give longer commands, and it'll just be able to make all those commands together. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I want a back button. I shouldn't have a back button to undo that. Move the non-physical and physical labels above the graph. It should be outside of the graph. It should be hugging the y-axis. So the non-physical should be right aligned, hugging that y-axis, and the physical label should be left aligned, hugging that y-axis, but both outside of the graph, on top of the graph. I need some labels for the graph. On the left side, on top of the graph, there should be a label that's called non-physical. The non-physical label should be on top of the graph, and not inside the graph, not inside the boxes. It should be on top of the boxes, and it should be right aligned on the left side of the column. There should be another label called physical that's going to be on the right side of the graph, on top of the graph. So just next to the non-physical, hugging the y-axis. Move the 21% human-led label inside the box, so it sits within the data point. Move the 22% manual labor inside the box and keep it black. Move the 13% label back into the bottom right box and the 22% manual labor label into the top right box. Manual labor is there, and then 13% robot. The 13% robot should be moved into the bottom right box, the bottom right data point. Some of these edits that I'm making right now, it obviously would have felt easier to just do with the mouse. And I think some of these tasks in slide making might be easier to do with the mouse, especially right now since it's like not obeying my commands properly, and I have to investigate to see what it's thinking in the background. But there's some other tasks where it might be a small change that you want, but it might be a big change on the slide. For example, maybe sometimes you don't know what you want from the slide, or you don't know how to make it better, but you can just voice it and see how it changes. I'm just going to give it like a nebulous answer here, or prompt. This slide feels boring. I'm not quite sure how to fix it. I feel like it's just like a lot of white space, but I don't want it to be too colorful. It just still needs to be very professional. But yeah, it just feels like it's too much white space or something. I'm not quite sure how to fix it. Like part of it might be the responsiveness. So let's see. Does that change anything? No, not really. Oh, it's editing still. Okay, so it's making multiple edits actually. Okay. I'm not quite sure what it did, but maybe it didn't do anything. Maybe it was just me moving it around. I'm just going to add a title and we'll call it a day for this slide. So just add a title to this slide, top right. It says that there's a lot of current work hours that might be automated by robots or agents. And so we need to search for work that will be non-automatable. And a lot of that is social work. Okay, there's a title up there and it doesn't look great. Let me fix it. The title at the top right, that should be like in big words. Sorry, not top right, going across the top of the slide. It should be left aligned, and it should be much bigger font. Okay, I think we're almost there. I'm going to go back and fix all these things, and then we can see if we can improve the slide making process here. Cool. Thanks for checking this out.